Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. At 5 p.m. tonight, NBA free agency kicks off. At this point, you probably already know what assets the Bucks have available to them in terms of signing new free agents. They only have their taxpayer mid-level exception to sign someone to a contract above the minimum. I've already talked about what guards and wings they could potentially target with this exception money, and in this video, I'm going to talk about what big men could potentially sign with the team. The most obvious way the Bucks could use their taxpayer mid-level exception on a big man is by re-signing Bobby Portis. Portis cemented himself as a fan favorite and a key rotational piece for the Bucks last season, so it would clearly benefit the team quite a bit to bring him back for next year. Unfortunately, I cannot see Portis agreeing to this $5.9 million contract. He has likely earned himself a significantly higher number for next season based off of his playoff run for the Bucks last year. With that being said, the Bucks will likely have to use this exception money to bring in an external free agent as Bobby's replacement. A prime candidate for this job is Zach Collins. The biggest concern with Collins, similar to another player I think the Bucks could look to sign in Otto Porter, is his injuries. Collins didn't play at all last season, and the year before that, he appeared in just 11 games. He also may not be healthy for the start of next season, so with all of these injury concerns, you may be thinking that I'm crazy for suggesting that the Bucks should sign this guy. Trust me, I'm not. When Collins is on the court, his production is worth the injury concerns. He is a very high-level rim protector, posting a career 3.1% block rate, despite spending most of his time playing at the 4 alongside Jusuf Nurkic. Collins also shows potential to become a stretch big man. He's only shot 32.4% from beyond the arc so far in his career, but his form looks pretty good, and there is some definite room for improvement that could come with him playing in the Bucks system, where he would be encouraged to shoot even more three-pointers. This is clearly a huge gamble for the Bucks if they sign Collins with their taxpayer mid-level, but if he's able to stay healthy, that could pay off in a big way, as I could see him developing and eventually replacing Brook Lopez as the Bucks' long-term answer as a starting center. Another big man the Bucks could target is JaMychal Green. Green profiles as a stretch 4/5 and does a really nice job of knocking down open three-point shots. He's a career 38% shooter from beyond the arc and could probably shoot even better when paired with Giannis Antetokounmpo, who would generate loads of wide-open shots for him from the three-point line. In addition to being a great three-point shooter, Green also rebounds very well for a 6'8" power forward. He's posted a 15.5 career rebounding rate and is a genuine difference maker on the glass. Green doesn't do much else aside from shoot and rebound, though. He's not a great defensive player. Although he can viably guard the 4 and the 5, he's certainly not someone that you want switching out on the perimeter a whole lot. Green is basically just going to knock down shots and grab rebounds. That's not a super valuable player, but it is someone that the Bucks could grab at this price range. Another former Denver Nugget the Bucks could look to sign is Paul Millsap. Millsap plays the same position as Green as a small ball 5, but he does so in a very different manner. He's a much worse three-point shooter than his teammate, posting just a 34.3% mark from beyond the arc last season. He is, however, a much better defensive player and is a genuine playmaker on that end of the court, posting a 2.2% steal rate and a 3.0% block rate last season. Millsap is also a much better finisher at the basket, shooting 69.4% at the rim last season. This could make him a real threat to finish frequently out of the dunker spot for the Bucks. Millsap doesn't have the same spacing threat as his teammate Green, but he does do all of the other things at a higher level, so it's interesting to see which of the two Nuggets players the Bucks could potentially value more. Another team that has two big men the Bucks could potentially look to steal is their biggest competition in winning the Eastern Conference next season, the Brooklyn Nets. The first of these big guys is Jeff Green. Green had a career year shooting the ball last season as he knocked down 41.2% of his three-point shots. That is significantly higher than his career mark of 34% from beyond the three-point line. In addition to the shooting, Green is a solid multi-positional defender defender who can switch from the 3 to 5 positions and guard them at a pretty high level because of his stellar frame, standing at 6'8", 235 pounds with a 7'1" wingspan. The swing skill with Green is his jump shot. If you buy him being the 40+% shooter that he was this past season, signing him to the $5.9 million taxpayer mid-level exception is probably a steal. If you value him closer to the 34% mark that he shot over his career, this is probably not a player you want to sign to that type of deal. The other Nets big man that the Bucks could target is Blake Griffin. What separates Griffin from the rest of the big man candidates for the Bucks to sign is his passing ability. Griffin sees the ball incredibly well for someone who plays inside most of the time, posting a career 22.1% assist rate. He's also a solid rebounder for someone who's 6'8", posting a career 14.3% rebound rate to go along with his stellar passing. On the defensive end of the court, Griffin is simply a solid positional defender. He's not necessarily someone that you'd feel comfortable with switching out and defending on the perimeter. His best skill on that end of the court is his ability to take charges, which has certainly been apparent in games against the Milwaukee Bucks in the past, as he consistently tries to take wimpy offensive fouls on Giannis Antetokounmpo. Griffin also is not a very good three-point shooter, knocking down just 33.4% of his shots from beyond the arc for his career. I don't see Griffin as a great option for the Bucks to sign here, and he's probably someone that I would pass on. Daniel Theis is probably my favorite candidate that the Bucks could sign with their taxpayer mid-level exception if they decide to go with a big man. He is a terrific rim protector, posting a career 4.1% block rate, and he also is a fairly mobile big guy, as he can switch out on the perimeter better than most players who have his level of rim protection analytics. On the offensive end of the court, Theis is best off either in the dunker spot or as a rim runner off of the pick and roll. He's pretty good at finishing at the rim, posting an outstanding 77.6% conversion rate at the basket this past season. In addition to his stellar finishing, Theis is a theoretical shooter. Over his career, he's shooting just 33.6% from beyond the three-point line, but he's made improvements in recent years, and in the Milwaukee Bucks system where he'd be asked to step out on the perimeter a bit more frequently, I could see him getting more comfortable as a three-point shooter. If Theis can improve his jump shot, I could see him being another candidate to, at one point, replace Brook Lopez as the Bucks' starting center. He's that good of a defensive player and has potential on offense to be a high-level role player as well. I think that the Theis signing would be a home run if the Bucks could come away with it, and he's the best big man on the market for Milwaukee, in my opinion. Rudy Gay is almost the exact opposite of Daniel Theis as a strong offensive big man who merely gets by on defense, but he is another strong candidate that the Bucks could look to sign. He is very skilled on the offensive end of the court as a scorer, as last season he scored 19 points per 36 minutes, clearly the highest marker of any player on this list. He also is a knockdown three-point shooter, making 38.1% of his shots from long range last season. This would allow him to play both off the ball as a floor spacer for Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton, as well as an on-the-ball shot creator whenever those two players are on the bench. As I said before, Gay isn't anything special as a defender or rebounder, but he does just enough there to get by and still be a positive on the court because of his strong offensive game. My evaluation of Georges Niang is fairly simple. He's a sharpshooting big man who doesn't do much else. Let's start with the positive. Over each of the past 3 seasons, Niang has converted upwards of 40% of his three-point attempts. That makes him a very real floor spacing threat to opposing defenses from the power forward position. Niang plays a very limited role in the Utah Jazz's offensive scheme, and he doesn't do any shot creating or playmaking for his teammates whatsoever, but he still is a valuable offensive player because of his high-level shooting abilities. Defense is another story for Niang. He gets by most of the time with his high-level basketball IQ, as well as a great motor, but in the playoffs, sometimes that just isn't enough, and that was certainly the case in last year's postseason for the Utah Jazz, where he really struggled on the defensive end of the court against the Los Angeles Clippers. Niang has a great nickname going for him. Who can't root for a guy who is called the minivan? Unfortunately, that along with three-point shooting aren't enough to hold up his poor defense, and for that reason, I'd probably stay away from Niang with the mid-level exception if I were the Bucks. The final big man that I think the Bucks could target with their taxpayer mid-level exception is Nemanja Bjelica. The biggest perk of Bjelica is his ball handling, as he can genuinely run some offense for you at the 4 position if need be. He's also a very good passer, posting a 16.2% assist rate last season, a number that you usually don't see from big men. The big swing skill with Bjelica is his jump shot. Over the course of his career, he's generally been pretty good in that category, knocking down 38.7% of his three-point attempts across the course of his career. Last season, however, that number cratered as he made just 31.8% of his shots from beyond the arc. If Bjelica wants to be a genuine playoff contributor, he has to shoot much closer to his career numbers in the high 30s and low 40s, rather than in the low 30s. Otherwise, he's probably just someone who is stuck at the end of the bench. This is especially true because Bjelica is a pretty poor defender. He doesn't move well enough laterally to guard players at the 1 through 3, and he's not big enough to guard NBA centers either. As a one-position defender who has an inconsistent jump shot, this is probably another player that I would stay away from for Milwaukee. Thank you all for watching today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. This is the place for you. Also be sure to let me know in the comment section down below which of the 24 players that I spotlighted over the past 3 videos you would most like to see the Bucks sign with their taxpayer mid-level exception. My top 3 guys would be Otto Porter, Daniel Theis, and Nick Batum. Thank you all for watching today's video. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.